Conformity is usually a word associated with a dystopian future and a lack of humanity. But does it actually ruin society? There's been a term being used more and more in modern times: the rat race. Now, before we begin, I want to figure out whether or not this term is actually true. The first time it was used was in a novel written by Vance Packard called The Wastemakers. He used this term as a metaphorical way to describe the relentless pursuit of material success and competitive nature of modern life. Looking at this definition of the rat race, would you say this is true in modern day society? I would say so. At least in American society, I would say this is abundantly true. Capitalism, by definition, is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. So, if people control their profit, they can also control how hard they work to get how much profit they want. In the American education system, success is determined by a number. Whether that's the ACT, a test grade, or a person's GPA, we're all competing to get a higher number to represent ourselves. If we look back at the rat race, I think even the education system falls under this term. We're taught to work for 8 hours a day with a set lunch break and the goal of completing as much high quality work as possible in those set 8 hours. If you look at this system, you'll see the obvious correlation between it and the rat race. Even in adult life, people are always racing towards a promotion to get a bigger and bigger paycheck. But is this a bad thing? If we didn't have this motivation to chase money and the material things that come along with it, society would collapse. This competitive nature of modern life is what creates high quality work and people. But it also comes with some drawbacks. If I had to choose one movie that had the biggest impact on me as a teenager, I would have to say Fight Club. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend you watch it before you watch this video, because I will be getting into some heavy spoilers. The main character is called the narrator. There are theories about his real name, but it's not that important. He lives with sleep deprivation, causing him to fall in and out of reality. His place of work is a car company, where he works as the recall coordinator day in and day out. This job and sleep deprivation cause him to feel like he's living in a loop, where he does the same thing over and over again, conforming to society. And eventually, he meets someone named Tyler Durden, a complete opposite to himself. Tyler is go-getting and doesn't let society run him over, instead deciding to completely go against it. The narrator's life gets completely flipped upside down when his apartment gets set on fire and he loses all the material things he's worked for his entire life. He meets Tyler again and completely rethinks his entire way of life while talking to him, and they end up fighting each other in the parking lot for no other reason than to completely go against everything society has taught them. Tyler and the narrator end up starting a club based on the basis of fighting in a basement to get away from society and all of the worthless materialistic obsessions attached to it. Their club ends up getting huge, filled with men that reject the idea of the rat race and the conformity that comes along with it. Everything goes off the rails when Tyler decides to start taking down society by blowing all of the banks up and resetting everybody back to ground zero. By getting rid of everybody's credit scores, finances, and debt. The narrator objects to this plan due to its violence and tries to stop Tyler Durden until he's met with a terrifying truth. He is Tyler Durden. People that get tired of societies built upon the rat race end up despising the concept, which is completely fair. The rat race, although being based on the hardest workers getting the best jobs and salaries, is also flawed. It isn't always based on the hardest worker getting the best jobs. There's also a lot of luck involved in the process. Sometimes, to get a high-paying job, being the most qualified doesn't always matter. You might have better luck landing the job, being the son of a close friend to the employer, and the scraps left behind the rat race are almost nothing. People on the lower end of the race end up being in poverty and are discarded by society as someone that didn't put in the work to become rich. Which, yes, this can be true. Some people don't put in any work and get tossed aside due to this, but that's not always the case. Some people aren't given the same opportunities as others. So is it better to conform to society to get a good paying job and security in your life, or is it better to reject this idea and get tossed aside? I honestly don't know. If conformity is the way to secure a better future for you and the generations to come after you, then why does it make us feel so hollow? If you look back on yourself as a child, I think a lot of us have moved on from wanting to do our dream jobs, like being an astronaut or a marine biologist, because they aren't plausible jobs in the rat race. As people in this society, we are taught to value money and materialistic objects above our passions and dreams. If all of our goals are to make the most amount of money in our lifetime, then there's nothing separating us other than our professions and our hobbies, which, for some people, might be enough to create a sense of self. I want to talk about my personal experience with this idea. As a kid, I was obsessed with dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist, which is probably a common sentiment, but I still want to pursue paleontology and my passion for dinosaurs. Although, I can't lie, I'm terrified. I'm in my senior year of high school and have already been accepted to one of the few colleges that offer paleontology. This career is dead to the idea of the rat race. Not only is every job low paying in relation to other careers, but they're also far and few. Before even having the opportunity to pursue one of these jobs, you need a PhD, multiple years of experience, and the ability to travel long distances in a short amount of time. I think that all of these things I listed are very important to becoming a successful paleontologist, but are almost impossible to achieve without giving up money and a secure job. Thinking about this barrier of entry makes me uneasy. I have a passion for paleontology and will probably end up picking a career in the field, but this passion has an extreme risk attached to it. It would be smarter for me to pick a secure job in an office that pays well, but it's not what I want. And this thought process is different from person to person, so I'm not attacking either side of the aisle. They both have positives and negatives. So it's up to you if the rat race is something you want to object or accept. But before you make a decision about either of the sides, you need to truly think about it, because it will determine the rest of your life. I do think that everyone has a Tyler Durden in them. Obviously not to the same extent, but we all have to ask the same question before we enter the real world. If you don't know the answer to this question, you should seek it. Whether that be asking your parents or talking to an adult you know, you need to seek what you want. Even now, after deciding what I want to do, and being in my last year of high school, I'm still not 100% sure it's the best decision I have. I will probably end up in debt after college, and won't have the means to pay off that debt for a long time after due to my career choice, which is hard to accept, but my passion is more important to me than having debt or losing my financial security due to my salary. Don't let your passions fade away due to the rat race without even thinking about it, because it might be the best choice for you. Conformity is not always a bad thing, especially for a functioning society, but it does have its drawbacks. All of us have to conform in some way. It just depends on how much you want to. But that's all I have to talk about in this video. And if you enjoyed this video, it would help a ton if you liked and subscribed. Also, I'm starting a Discord server for this channel, so if you're interested in joining, there's a link in the description as an invite to the server. I'm Otaku, I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay obsessed.